From an outsider's perspective, I think to myself, when I look at the Blazers, they seem to be in a rather tense situation. It doesn't matter what they do as long as they keep Lillard happy, is what the narrative seems to be. And a lot of people are clamoring for Lillard to leave the team since the Blazers haven't done much to make the team better during the offseason. But I tried looking into it more and I tried seeing what the fans had to say, and some of the commentators on YouTube giving fresh takes from a perspective of being a Blazers fan. And from what I gather, Blazers fan and Blazers faithful seem to be way more optimistic than we were initially led to believe. Now, part of the reason why I'm doing this video is because I need to shift my way of making content and not so much focus on sensationalizing stories, but rather look at some of these stories and try to extrapolate what is actually happening from fresh eyes. And today, that's my goal. I'm hoping that you guys will like the direction I'm going with this content. I will no longer talk about being a Knicks hater because, quite frankly, looking back on those videos, it does seem like I'm being rather immature and childish. It was an attempt for me to try to put in my personality, but then I realized that being a hater isn't so much a personality trait, it's really just something that's annoying. And I don't want to be annoying to people, so I'll try to shift things to be more lighthearted and more positive, and at the same time, will be full of information that'll tie everything back together. So without further ado, let's get back to the Blazers and what's been actually happening. So after the Blazers lost to the Nuggets, despite Lillard carrying them and scoring over 50 points in that double overtime game and still managing to lose, there's been two sets of narratives running around for a while. And on the one hand, you have people saying that Lillard should leave Portland and get to a contending team. On the other hand, you have people now seeing that Lillard wants to stay in Portland, saying that Portland is really a failure of a franchise. Their offseason has been kaput. There's been nothing really substantial to look forward to. And now they're in a pile of trouble because Lillard will eventually leave. Although it is true that Portland's future is up in the air and that perhaps during the regular season they could just all blow it up like Houston Rockets did when James Harden went out, you could potentially see a Blazers team that is better on the defensive end, having acquired Larry Lance Jr. for Derrick Jones and that freeway deal that saw Markkanen go to Cleveland. And now you have a player that is bigger, more versatile on the defensive end. He's also a playmaker that can also shoot. And you have a more complete player, a complete package than Derrick Jones Jr. And then you look at the players that they've traded away during the regular season, that being trading away Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood to acquire a more versatile scorer in Norman Powell and someone that could help you on the defensive end. And now getting rid of players that have really bad defenses in Carmelo Anthony and Enes Kanter, you can now have a roster that is more shifted to try to be a more defensive minded team. What people did get right is that the offseason of the Blazers has been rather uneventful, with acquisitions ranging from Ben McLemore to Tony Snell and Cody Zeller. Not exactly players that would help Lillard win a championship right now. Another thing I seem to have noticed is that people in the Blazers fandom seem to be clamoring for CJ McCollum to be traded, and preferably traded for Ben Simmons in a deal that would see him go to Philadelphia. I do see how this would benefit both teams in terms of having a defensive powerhouse in Ben Simmons now playing for your Blazers, and then having a player that can complement Embiid's playstyle very well in CJ McCollum. And in all honesty, from an outsider's perspective, I do see the Blazers improving from last season, barring injuries. And you have a team that could potentially make it top six in the Western Conference. And you also have a team that, if everything were to pan out, and if bigger deals were to be made to get players that could help Lillard win a championship now, you could see this team being top four, even top three in the Western Conference. And this is where I'm left really holding on to a lot of the thoughts I've had that are preconceived based on how Lillard performed and how the rest of his teammates didn't perform. And it's something that I've also wanted to see Lillard leave Portland after that horrific playoff where he had to carry his team only to lose in 6 games. And then soon after that, you hire a coach in Chauncey Billups who's had allegations thrown at him that are rather serious. And this Portland Trailblazers could be in for a heap of trouble during the regular season, and we could see this team potentially blowing everything up, which would be the worst case scenario. And at the end of the day, it's all on Lillard's hands. Everything that this team does is only to please Lillard because Lillard is the main player that's going to either make this team be a playoff contender or make this team barely make it in the Western Conference playoff standings. And we'll see now the rare display of die-hard loyalty that Lillard has being tested all throughout this regular season, and we'll see it being tested like it's never been before. And perhaps we may see a crack under that shell, and Lillard perhaps leaving the team only to make the Portland Trailblazers become another what if, what could have been, and what could have been done to make Lillard happy.